December 10th, 2017, Central City. Have you ever stopped to wonder about the human statues you see on busy city streets? Who are they? What lives do they return to when the crowd disperses? In the bustling chaos of Central City, there was one such man, Benjamin Carter. Every morning, Benjamin painted himself gold from his weathered face to his trembling hands. His battered hat and tin cup completed his transformation into the Golden Man. He chose his spot carefully, always near towering buildings or crowded plazas where people rushed by with little time to stop. Some admired him, tossing coins into his cup. Others mocked him. "Why waste your time like this, old man?" a sneering passerby asked one day. Benjamin didn't respond. He never broke character, not even when ridiculed. The small coins he collected were his only lifeline, barely enough for bread and milk. He lived alone in a dilapidated single-room house on the city's edge. The walls were cracked, the roof leaked, and the only light came from a flickering bulb. Yet despite his hardships, Benjamin continued his silent performances every day. It was his only way to survive. But on one fateful evening, as the streets grew quiet, Benjamin's life took an unimaginable turn. It was an unusually cold evening when Benjamin set up his usual spot near a plaza. The city buzzed with life around him, the clamor of traffic and voices blending into a chaotic symphony. Benjamin stood frozen, his painted gold skin shimmering under the streetlights. As the hours passed, the streets began to empty. People hurried home to warmth and comfort, leaving Benjamin alone in the biting cold. Just as he was preparing to pack up and head back to his rundown house, a sharp, high-pitched cry pierced the air. Benjamin's ears pricked, and his weary eyes scanned the street. The cry came again, faint but unmistakable. He turned toward the sound and saw a shadow moving in an alley nearby. A hooded figure, cloaked in black, was carrying something bundled in cloth. Curiosity and unease battled within him, but the cry from the bundle pushed him forward. The figure reached a large garbage bin, glanced around nervously, and then, with a swift motion, tossed the bundle inside. Benjamin's heart pounded as the figure disappeared into the shadows. He hesitated for only a moment before shuffling toward the bin. His old knees creaked as he leaned in and carefully pulled out the bundle. Unwrapping the cloth, he found a tiny, trembling baby. Its face was scrunched up and red from crying. It was barely dressed, its tiny body exposed to the cold night air. "Oh, God," Benjamin whispered, his voice breaking. The baby's cries softened as he held it close, his gold-painted hands trembling against the fragile warmth of the child. Looking around, Benjamin saw no sign of the hooded figure. He was alone with this abandoned baby, cradling it tightly. His mind raced. What should he do? Where could he go? He didn't know much about babies, but he knew one thing. This child needed help, fast. Gathering every ounce of strength, Benjamin began walking toward the nearest hospital, his heart heavy with fear and urgency. The icy streets bit at his skin, cutting through the thin fabric of his worn coat. His gold paint, cracked and flaking from his hurried movements, left streaks on the baby's blanket. The little one, no longer wailing but whimpering softly, nestled against him, searching for warmth. "Hold on, little one," Benjamin murmured, his breath visible in the frosty air. His old lungs strained as he trudged through the night. The hospital wasn't far, but for someone his age, it felt like miles. Every step was an effort, but he pushed forward, ignoring the cold gnawing at his body. Finally, the bright lights of St. Mercy Hospital came into view. Relief flooded through Benjamin's tired body, and he quickened his pace as best as he could. When he entered the emergency room, the warmth hit him like a wave. But the stares of the staff and patients quickly reminded him of his appearance. An old man painted gold, his face lined with exhaustion, holding a baby wrapped in a tattered blanket. It was a sight to behold. "I need help," Benjamin said, his voice hoarse but steady. "This baby was abandoned. I found it in the trash." A nurse, a young woman with a kind but startled expression, hurried forward. "Oh my God," she said, reaching for the baby. Benjamin hesitated for a second before gently handing the child over. The nurse cradled the infant and called for assistance. "Get Dr. Meyer," she shouted to a colleague, "and someone bring a warmer blanket." Another nurse approached Benjamin, eyeing him with a mix of curiosity and suspicion. "Where did you find this baby?" "In an alley," Benjamin replied, his voice firm. "A man in a black hoodie dumped the baby in a bin. I saw it happen." As the hospital staff worked on the baby, Benjamin stood awkwardly to the side. He didn't dare sit down on the pristine chairs, afraid his gold paint and tattered clothes would soil them. The room slowly returned to its normal rhythm, but he could feel the weight of the nurses' glances. Dr. Meyer, a middle-aged man with a graying beard, emerged from a nearby room and approached the nurses. He examined the baby briefly, his expression softening as the child's cries turned into contented coos. "The baby is stable," he said, "cold, but otherwise unharmed. Good thing it was brought in quickly." Benjamin felt a flicker of relief. He had done the right thing. But before he could speak, the nurse who had taken the baby aside whispered something to Dr. Meyer, her eyes darting toward Benjamin. Dr. Meyer frowned and nodded. He approached Benjamin, his hands in his coat pockets. "Sir, I need to ask you a few questions. You said you found the baby in a trash bin?" "Yes," Benjamin replied. "A man in a hoodie left it there and ran off." "And you're sure you don't know the child or have any connection to it?" Benjamin's brow furrowed. "Of course not. I've never seen this baby before tonight." The doctor nodded slowly, but his expression remained cautious. Benjamin could see it, the doubt, the unspoken suspicion that lingered in the room. Moments later, a uniformed hospital security guard entered. He whispered something to the nurse at the desk, who gestured toward Benjamin. The guard walked over, his expression stern. "Sir, I need you to stay here for a moment," the guard said. "What? Why?" Benjamin asked, a sinking feeling growing in his stomach. "It's just protocol," the guard replied vaguely, his tone offering no comfort. Benjamin watched as the nurse at the desk picked up a phone and began dialing. The minutes felt like hours as he stood there, unsure of what to do or say. The baby had been saved. Wasn't that enough? The sound of approaching footsteps echoed through the room. 2 police officers entered, their presence heavy and authoritative. One was a tall man with a thick mustache, the other, a shorter woman with piercing eyes. They scanned the room before approaching Benjamin. "Are you the one who brought the baby in?" the mustached officer asked. "Yes," Benjamin replied, his voice steady but wary. "And where did you find it?" the officer continued. "In an alley," Benjamin repeated. "A man in a black hoodie left it in a trash bin. I saw it happen." The officers exchanged a glance. The shorter officer pulled out a small notepad. "We've received a report about a missing baby," she said. "Kidnapped from the Donovan family at the hospital nursery yesterday. This could be the same child." Benjamin felt his heart drop. "Kidnapped? No. No, you don't think I—" "We're not saying anything yet," the mustached officer interrupted, his tone firm. "But we need to investigate." Before Benjamin could protest further, the officers motioned to the security guard. "Take him to the station for questioning," the shorter officer said. "What? No. I saved that baby," Benjamin shouted, his voice rising with panic. "I didn't take it. I found it." The officers didn't listen. The security guard took his arm, not harshly, but firmly, and began leading him toward the exit. Benjamin glanced back at the baby, now peacefully asleep in the nurse's arms, as he was escorted out of the hospital into the biting cold of the night. With red and blue lights flashing around him, Benjamin felt the crushing weight of misunderstanding and fear. He had done what he thought was right, but now he was being treated like a criminal. As he was placed in the back of the police car, only one thought filled his mind. What will happen to the baby now?